I would say that I'm resilient, I'm optimistic, and a caring person. After my graduation from management school, I joined NIIT. Then I was in Pricewaterhouse and Microsoft in the first 15 years of my career, primarily in tech and consulting. In the year 2000, that's when the startup itch got me. And I did a lot of research and picked up upon BPO, that is offshoring, as the primary area to build my first business called Customer Asset. From there on, over the last 25 years, I've built businesses across multiple sectors, ranging from edtech to grocery delivery to fine jewelry. Some of the big names are Tutor Vista, Big Basket, Home Lane, Bluestone, and nearly a dozen other companies. But the one which is closest to my heart is Portia Medical, which I started in 2013. This is an outside of hospital healthcare company. Now, this one, I spent a lot of time. It came from my own personal experience of not having good healthcare delivered at home. You had to go to a facility, or then there was nothing else beyond that. So, taking that experience of myself and a lot of study that I did for nearly 6 months, both meeting people, understanding the scenario in India, understanding the scenario globally, that led to the genesis of Portia Medical. We are entrepreneurs. I have built businesses, not invested in businesses. We have done that also. But my primary identity is that as an entrepreneur who identifies areas that we believe are going to there are some problems to be solved, and those problems are something that I have the capacity and I have some unique skill with which I can solve those problems. Now, once you identify an area such as that, and the good thing in India is that there are so many problems that you can get around solving, then what I look at is it big enough? Is it worthwhile putting my time and effort? Is it going to give a reasonably good return or for the time and effort and monies that get put into that? So the scale, the real product market fit, those things need to be spent a lot of time on. And once that is clear, that's when the journey really begins. You know, the journey of any startup is nothing less than a roller coaster. My first startup, Customer Asset, I started in the year 2000. And then 2001, as you're aware, the 9/11 attacks happened, and that completely disrupted the business. Nobody was traveling in, no customers, no claims. One of the big processes we were doing was collecting money on behalf of credit card companies. And they said, moratorium, we don't want to reach out to any customers, collect anything. So all the business, new business, existing business, and all my funding came to a standstill. Now, this is just one example. It's not that that was the only case. So each of the startups at various points in time have either had some life-defining global disruptions. For instance, Portia had COVID as a part of its journey. But even if it's not that, there is always a day-to-day up and down that every business goes through. So as an entrepreneur, you need to have that resilience. You need to know that what you think is required, whether it is in terms of time, effort, money, actually what you'll end up spending is probably 3x of that. So that's something you need to know, because it is a roller coaster and you should need to be ready for that. See, this is something which is a part of my DNA, so I don't need to foster. What I do with passion, and I cannot be anybody else. So I firmly believe that as a leader, it is important to bring your entire self into the workplace. You cannot separate your work and your life and say you have a persona which you're going to be bringing into the work. The moment you do that, what you create is a fake person who cannot go through the ups and downs of life as a corporate or in a startup, even more so, will take you through. And when there are problems in a startup, as I just mentioned earlier, the more authentic you are, the more open that you are in sharing with people around you about the challenges that you go through, will people be behind you. So this is something that's how it is. I mean, there is no other way to live life or work. Over the many years, my husband Ganesh and I, we've been contributing to various causes. But about 5 years back, just soon after COVID hit, and we did a lot of work around feeding the migrants. It struck us that it's not enough to just contribute to people's causes, but there might be something which is really dear to us. Why can't we put our effort and might behind that? And after all, we are startup people. How about starting up a not-for-profit startup which will make a difference to people's lives? So that led to the setup of our foundation, which is called Bahar. Bahar works on creating hyper-local entrepreneurial livelihoods in the rural and tribal areas, which are not very good in terms of access to work, access to livelihood, or access to healthcare. So the first of the various options that we picked up, we could have looked at many domains, agri, husbandry, or healthcare, but we decided to pick healthcare. Of course, because of my own experience in working on healthcare, but also I felt that the thing that really transforms people's life drastically for the worse is healthcare. If you have a big healthcare event, your life is totally ruined. So how do we prevent that from happening? How do we bring healthcare access into the homes of people such that they consume healthcare when they actually need it, rather than when they're pushed to do that? So that's the idea behind Bahar. So this is an interesting question which made me pause and reflect. I grew up in a middle class household where my father was working as a public servant, and thereafter, even in my corporate career, till I actually made a little bit of money out of the ESOPs that Microsoft gave me, and then later, once some of the startups monetized, money was just basic. We were able to take care of our household requirements. We built ourselves a house and then invested the balance like any other people would do. But once we started to get a little bit of excess funds, then the first thing was, okay, what is it that we need to really keep aside and keep it safe? And beyond that, what is it that we know? How can we use the knowledge that we have, which is really all about startups? So much of our investments over the years, we ended up putting behind either private equities or directly into startups. And that is something that has become a significant part of the portfolio. In fact, now we are trying to rebalance and make sure that it's not all so much behind private equity. When I say private equity, I mean both the funds as well as direct startups. The first few years when I started my career, having come from a middle class family, I spent a lot of time in ensuring that the basic scaffolding was in place, making sure that we had enough money to build a house and then enough to set up our children's careers, their education, and so on and so forth. Once that was done, that's when the serious investing started. Initially, of course, it was, the public market, some mutual funds and so on. But as our startup journey matured, our own experience of the sector, the access to good deals, access to good funds, that also drove how we built our portfolio over the years. So there's a significant portion of private equity through funds as well as through direct investments that has been part of the portfolio. And then later, as the children grew up and became adults, they brought their own experiences in tech, global living, knowing what to diversify where, and they got access to a different set of funds and a different set of startups as well. So that has influenced and that has shaped our portfolio over the years also. As it happens, recently my daughter, who's returned from the US, and my son, who's an AI expert, he was with the top-notch AI firm till recently. Both of them have now started to participating in setting a new direction for Portea Medical, in looking at what's changing in terms of the access to technology, the expectations from people in terms of how they want to consume healthcare. All of this is changing. So we are trying to bring in a new direction, strategically seeing where we should be going. Now, coming to the family office, pretty early on, as the children became sensible enough to have conversations, we brought them into the family office. We ensured that they understood what we were doing, why we were doing, And in the last few years, they've started to take many independent calls. And in fact, in many cases, we get guided by them rather than giving them directions on what to do. The third part of mentoring is really about me giving back to the startup industry. There are a number of women entrepreneurs who reach out to me who would like to look at how they should build their startups, what is their life and startup journey going to be looking like, what are some of the challenges that I have experienced, how have I navigated that. So that is something which I enjoy doing a lot as well. 10 years from now, there are two key things that I hope to be doing. One, of course, I need to be healthy and in a good place physically and mentally, so that I'm able to do all of this. But actively surrounded by my family and involved and having common experiences with all of them. And then the second piece is really bringing about population level impact through the work that I'm doing in my not-for-profit. Boon, of course. So, in fact, this is something that I have been talking with my son and daughter, and this is in the area of healthcare. Magically, I want to be able to provide in every citizen's hand a way for them to access really good quality healthcare. And I think with AI, that is something which is indeed possible. I don't know if I'll call it a superpower, but I'm an excellent listener, and I try to create something which is a win-win for both parties. I really try to get to the nuance of what is really driving somebody. Why are they either wanting or not wanting to conclude something? That's really what I work on. Well, I mean, everything is changing so rapidly. How can I not be curious? I really cannot think of not being curious in this day and age. So, two things actually, you asked me one. One is that I write something what I call as morning pages. Every morning, write 3 pages in my journal. Absolutely critical. Second, I do Shakti Chalana Kriya every day without fail. So these two are my startup for the day. I love a gelato, especially one of those tangy ones. You know, I've always been a micromanager, and the first feedback that I ever got as a manager of people was that, oh gosh, you get too much into her hair. So learning to balance that. So actually that became a superpower as I grew, because once I knew how to control that, combining my strategic understanding or vision and being able to go deep dive whenever I need to has actually worked very well for me. It has to be the Kindle. I love reading. I read all the time. Do you need to ask? It has to be the startup brainstorm, and as chaotic as it can get. I looked at many songs, and the one which probably spoke best to me is the song Ruk Jana Nahi from the movie Imtihan. Balanced for sure. I think in the earlier days, we might have been a little more aggressive, going a lot behind different kinds of startups and funds. But now we are looking at a much more balanced portfolio. You know, it has to be a diverse portfolio. There is no choice. India, of course, a lot of good startups and a lot of growth is happening in the Indian economic scenario. But given the current geopolitical situation, I think it's important to diversify. So some US, some China, some India, absolutely.